You want to talk about Donald Trump?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's this foaming at the mouth obsession that our national broadcaster particularly has with every single thing and nuance and all of that about Donald Trump. This is actually part of a pattern, Mike. I'm 55 years old.
Right.
So I remember sneering, laughing commentary about Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
When he was president. And, he's about as near to a saint in the United States as you're going to get.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Then there was George Bush Sr., who he was portrayed as a hideous warmonger because he was ex-head of the CIA. Then there was George Bush Jr., who was portrayed as a dimwit, basically. And now we've got the completely over-the-top coverage of Trump. And it's just part of a pattern. Our mainstream media, our national broadcaster, who I've long since given up on, they are so blinkered, they are so myopic. Anybody with a Republican ticket on them is basically spawn of the devil.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because until Trump turned up this time, everyone was full of the idea that he had put the NHS firmly on the table, and he had said that he was going to, have it there as a bargaining chip and all the rest of it. And, of course, now, when he says, actually, we don't want anything to do with it, they say, oh, well, you can't believe a word he says. Well, hang on a minute. You believed what he said the last time, which suited you.
How problematic are these school patrols then, Neil?
They're getting worse day by day. It started on September 4th, but till now they're still doing it. And it seems to be, they seem to get more aggressive and standing outside my door like bouncers, as my locals say.
I was going to say that, the school would say they're obviously there to keep an eye on their pupils, and they have the legal right, I understand, to do that. But I guess that having people in high-vis jackets standing with their arms crossed looking like nightclub bouncers, and I've seen the photos in the papers, they do look like nightclub bouncers, might deter some of your grown-up customers from popping in.
That's exactly what happened on Thursday. Was a regular customer of mine, for local. She wanted to enter the shop, and she was quite shocked to see what's happening. And she asked, why is the police here? And that's when I had to explain that they're not police, they're teachers with walkie-talkies and, the high vest. And they're trying to intimidate all the children from not entering the shop. But that's not what they're doing. They're actually discouraging other people, normal customers who would like to visit my shop, from coming into it.
So it's really affecting your business.
Because as a normal customer, I don't think you would enter a shop like that.
I would find it off-putting, Neil. I cannot tell a lie.
Do you regret the Remain stance, the extreme Remain stance your party has taken in this election campaign?
There's a week to go. A lot can happen in that week. We've seen huge changes in elections. You and I have, as a journalist, I covered a lot of elections. I know things can change. Remain is what we believe in. We are not Remain because it's a political stance. That is simply we are Liberal Democrats. We believe that being in the European Union, being internationalist, outward-looking, able to tackle things like climate change on the global stage, that is vital for this country's future. That's not something you regret. That's something you either believe or you don't believe, and it's what I believe. And that is what we have laid out. We've been absolutely crystal clear with the public from day one. And, we can talk about Labour squeeze or whatever, but the reality is that the Labour Party has put out this ridiculous, incredible list of manifesto pledges. They are unclear on Brexit. And I think at the end of the day, when we actually see the votes counted, the opinion polls don't always reflect what is happening in individual seats. And it might say, across the country we're at a certain level, but there are seats where it is very different. And it's because of the range of support that we have in different seats. There are seats where we are incredibly strong, where we have, we've been the representatives for 20, 30 years, and other parts of the country where we don't have any support. So that cannot be measured in a national opinion poll.
No, this is a very fair point, and I think anyone who's looked at what's happened on election night, we've got that exit poll in 2015 and in 2017, very, very different results, very much different from what the polls have said. It'd be a brave soul that would make a definite prediction, as you say, all to come as we go ahead. Now, your party leader, Jo Swinson, she braved a grilling from Andrew Neil last night, which is more than the Tory party leader, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, it would appear willing to do. I thought, actually, overall, looking at it, she did rather well in terms of taking his questions. But one of the things he didn't get to was an issue which I know was very close to my heart, very close to a lot of my listeners' hearts as well. And this is the Liberal Democrats' plan for freedom, rights and equality, and in particular the Gender Recognition Act. And your party's support, Joe Swinson tweeted about this yesterday, basically removing any requirement for any medical report, seeing a doctor, having any treatment, whether medication or surgical at all, and recognising non-binary gender identities, having X-gender option on passports. Basically, it's saying that anyone can basically say, I'm a man, I'm a woman, and then they obtain those rights as the gender which they choose as opposed to the gender they're born. This is not a vote winner for the average voter who isn't in the sort of woke media bubble, is it?
What I would say is that, first of all, you're absolutely right about Jo being on Andrew Neil last night. And that interview, she showed why she, for us, is a much better leader than anybody like Jeremy Corbyn or Boris Johnson, because she was prepared to go on there, hold her hands up, talk about things clearly. And, you know, as you said yourself, brave the issues that Boris Johnson, frankly, has run away from. He wasn't prepared to do it. On the specific issue of the Gender Recognition Act, I think we all know that it is incredibly sensitive, that because the attitude to people's gender and sexuality over the years has been quite so heavy-handed that it's caused a lot of people untold misery, Julia. I mean, at a party conference in spring, we debated this, and we had one transgender woman who spoke about it, who's now a parliamentary candidate. We also had her wife who was talking about how difficult it had been for the whole family, and how difficult so much of the pain and the difficulty of going forward came from the existing law. And she had to make a decision because of the spousal veto. As the law stands at the moment, if you want to be transgendered, if you want to transition, you need the permission of your spouse. And that can cause untold...
You can make a change in the law on that, and that's clearly, I would say, something that is reasonable to change. But the idea that any 6'4" man who could just say, I'm not, no medical treatment, no living, transitioning, no surgical treatment or anything, and just say I'm a woman, and therefore be able to be, for instance, in a female changing room, to be able to be in a women's refuge, to be able to be in a women's prison. We've already seen cases where women have been sexually assaulted behind bars, very vulnerable women, because men who say they identify as women are transferred to those prisons. This is an absurdity. This is not about looking after trans people's needs and recognising their right to live the life they want to. This is about trampling on the rights and safety of women and girls.
No, it's not. There are a lot of things, a lot of statements you made there, Julia. First of all, it's not as easy as just saying. I mean, imagine.
No. The policy you support is as easy as that.
Can I speak? It's not as easy for an individual. You don't just go out one day and say, do you know what? I'm not going to be a man anymore. I'm going to be a woman. I'm not going to be a woman anymore. I want to be a man. It is huge.
The policy you support would allow... We know it's not that easy. The policy you support would allow that.
Julia, do you honestly think that someone would put themselves through the abuse, the misery, everything, on a whim, or, let's be honest.
Christine, the whole point, no. The whole point is we're not talking about genuine trans people. We're talking about perverts and women's abusers who will use this law to gain access to women's safe places and will be able to use it. We've already seen it happen.
Anyone who goes to a refuge, anyone, absolutely anyone, deserves our support through the trauma they're going through, whatever it might be. They have not gone there. They've not taken that decision lightly, and there's been a lot of pain.
Including a 6'4" man who says he's a woman.
And that trauma is something that we have to respect. Anyone who goes there needs our support.
And to respect a woman, no, Christine, to respect a woman who's been beaten by her long-term partner and escapes to the refuge, to then have a 6'4" man, biological man, come in a dress and say, oh, well, I'm a woman and I need help too. You don't think that's not disrespecting those women and their need to be safe from men?
I think you're disrespecting the commitment, the talent, and the skill of the people who run refugees, that they're going to allow that.
They'd have to.
Easily.
They would legally have to allow it under the policy your party supports.
Julia, you're not giving them credit. That is not the way it would work.
That is exactly the way it would work. That's literally the point of the policy, is that people would be able to self-declare.
You and I both know, it's self-declaring. Look, you and I both know that this is a hugely sensitive, difficult area that we are only just beginning to get to grips with. We're at the same stage with this as we were 20, 30 years ago with coping with people's sexuality, when they came out and said that they were homosexual or they were lesbians or whatever. We are now at a stage where we can deal with that, on a human level, on a reasonable level, and allow people to be who they want to be. Now, when it comes to the debate over trans issues, trans rights, we are just beginning to get to grips with it. And of course, it's incredibly sensitive. And we have to listen to what everybody says. But what we also have to do is ensure that where we have people who have already been through a trauma, and this, we've talked about the trauma of women going to refugees here. If we talk about the people who've been through the trauma of gender dysphoria, we're only just beginning to get.
I get that, and I get that we need to be respectful. I'm not in any way not respectful of trans people and their rights. However, when there is a battle of rights and they trample on the rights of women and girls to be safe, I know which side I'm on. The London bridge killer, Usman Khan. We know, of course, he was let out only halfway through his prison sentence for already being convicted of a terrorism offence, and ally of Anjem Choudhury, of course, him also convicted in other categories. But we now know that Usman Khan was a high-risk Category A inmate after he'd made threats to prison staff. He remained on that high-risk category throughout his entire time in prison. Now, we're told, the impression has been given that he was someone who had turned his life around. He wanted to be rehabilitated, and that he was somebody who was safe to be released on the streets despite the parole board never even getting a look in. He was just released halfway through his sentence. Now we discover he was high risk. He was considered to be a danger to the public, and yet under your government he was released from prison to kill and maim. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Julia, I want to hear a lot more about this, because it's quite clear that mistakes have been made, and I think it's quite clear that we need to look again at this. But as you know, Julia, I have been calling for a new law on treason for a number of years now, because there is a problem here. And the problem is that while we are recognizing some crimes of violence and some crimes of intent to commit violence, what we're not recognizing in many of these early incidents is the very fundamental nature of the betrayal and the continued intent to betray and the continued intent to do harm to people to whom you owe a duty of cooperation, your fellow citizens. And what we need is an ability to act against people in such a way that we can actually have an enduring sentence based on it. Now, a treason charge does not imply in any sense a death penalty or an eternal prison sentence. That would be up to a judge. Definitely no death penalties, as you know, but the sentencing would be up to a judge. But the very act of betrayal is something that we have simply not got right yet, and we need to do that, because what we're talking about here is people who have chosen to turn their backs on, to do violence against those people who have looked after them.
I've got a funny feeling that you were as sort of about this as I was when you saw this news.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's more proof that millennials ruin everything. I mean, the Turner Prize, the Turner Prize has always had ridiculous elements to it, but it's usually been quite a harsh competition. People really wanted to win it. Remember, Tracy Emin didn't win it, and she went nuts. She thought that was a really bad thing to happen. It was a real sense of competitiveness. Now we have these younger artists coming in who talk about engaging in participatory art and participatory politics, who all want the prize for themselves to share it out. It's an all must have prizes situation, a prize for taking part, and that really undercuts the whole point of the Turner Prize and all literary and artistic prizes, which is that we have to exercise judgment and pick a winner.
Now, here's the question for you, James and Ash. A simple question, but a very important question for both of you and for every listener. Now, it's not a trick question now. This is not a trick question. What is the greatest power that a human being possesses on the planet Earth?
The hydrogen bomb.
No, that's a good answer, Ash.
I can tell you what the right answer is. I can tell you what.
Are you going to have a go at it, James? What do you think?
It's the hydrogen bomb.
Love.
No. Oh, no.
Love.
Love? That's a good choice, James, but that's
you couldn't
not
win
the
a
answer.
war with love, could you?
Well,
you want to know
actually.
the answer?
Okay, say the question again.
What is the greatest power that every human being on Earth can manifest?
Belief.
That's a person with a rational mind, of course.
Faith. Belief.
What's the most personal
compassion.
power?
You're getting close, James. This is something that you can actually express in your life, you and Ash, and myself, and every listener. Something we can express.
What was the question again? What was the greatest power that we have?
Yeah, the greatest power we have.
The greatest
you and me
power
as individuals. You know, is it your love for your
You've
fellow
got that
man?
very good compound bow and arrow.
Yeah, all right. But what is your greatest power? The power to love. The power to say no.
That's right, man. Yeah, the power to love.
Yeah.
Good try. That's a good try, James. You give up now?
Anybody? Let me ask you in the control room. Anybody know what the greatest power you all possess is? Amy, what is it? Dunno. Phil, hang on, Phil. What is it? It's love.
Ryman, it's not
Lanky,
fair because he's got
he's
got X-ray vision.
Ryan,
because of a radioactive
what is it?
experiment that went
sarcasm.
wrong.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Sarcasm.
Yes. Okay. So what is it? Come on.
Okay, James, you were pretty close at the beginning. Now, before that, though, a nuclear weapon is very powerful. The nuclear fallout would last maybe 1,000 years, say, if 10 nuclear bombs were exploded. But eventually, the fallout, the dangerous fallout, would dissipate over a period of time.
No, I could destroy all life in the initial explosion with all the...
Yeah, but the fallout ash would eventually dissipate. It eventually weaken. The greatest power that I possess, that you possess, James, and that Ash possesses is this. The power...
Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
Happiness.
Play it the song.
Happiness. Happiness.
Get your
the
chuckle
greatest
muscles.
power
Get your chuckle,
I possess.
Get your chuckle muscle around this.
Happiness. The greatest power
It's
that
connected.
I possess. What?
It's connected.
Oh.
The power of choice. God gives you and I the power to choose.
It's not very good, is it?
Choose, this is like, you should know this, Ash, it's in the scriptures. Choose you this day whom you will serve. Joshua said that to the people of Israel. So the greatest power we have, which will affect our eternity, is the power of choice to serve the Lord Jesus or reject him. Those who reject him spend eternity in hell.
Actually, Ken Dodd and Happiness, and that was Ken from London. I think the greatest power that man possesses is happiness. Never mind choice.
I mean, something has gone very wrong at the heart of the Brexit Party, hasn't it?
No, not really. I mean, to be honest, it was very much in its infancy.
Well, it hasn't reached toddlerhood yet. You know.
But the main thing is, and we say it all the time, both of them were London-based. You can't trust a Conservative. All those people that vote Conservatives in the north, it'll be just same as
same again if people vote Conservative. They'll ignore the North, as they always do. And I was listening to Bolton this morning on Sky News, and the Welsh Labour Party, where they're having a conference, leader, the Welsh Labour, referred to all those ex-Labour Party members as right-wing scum. And they're in front of Claire Fox. How insulting is that?
Yeah, but, let's kind of cut down into this a little bit, Mike. What is going on inside the Brexit Party where you've got MEPs who were only just elected this year in a very wide-ranging and broad brush election in the European Parliament, which they won massively, right? Something's happened there, right?
Yeah,
clearly.
It's called betrayal.
Well, no, something is going on at the heart of the Brexit Party. I don't know what it is. Nigel Farage, remember, said that he was going to put up candidates in every single constituency that he could, and he was talking about 600 plus, right? Suddenly, he also said that the Boris Johnson deal was no good and it couldn't be supported by the Brexit Party. He said it was Brexit in name only. A week later, he's completely reversed that.
No, the three other parties work in a different way to Brexit, which was UKIP. Once UKIP went the way it did, everybody came out of UKIP and went into the Brexit Party.
Yes.
UKIP worked the other way. What happened was that we had meetings. We told the regional managers. The regional managers went to London and then told the hierarchy what the region wanted. And that was democracy. What you've got is you've got people like Corbyn that comes out with all this nonsense about privatising Royal Mail and all the rest. They don't believe that we've got memories.
Okay.
We've been betrayed yet again by the London hierarchy. And I can give an example of that. Corbyn were talking about Royal Mail last night on telly. It was Royal Mail that the Labour Party cut legs off when they closed 2,500 community post offices.
Right.
And that's that. So we all know what they're like. They've cut waspy women's pensions. So anybody listening to this, all I can advise is vote Brexit Party if you're in the North, and you will get a much better deal than what you've got now.
I just thought you were giving the Brexit Party a bit of a hard time. I've sent my postal vote in. I voted Tory.
Okay.
But I've got to say, for me, and I think for many Tory voters, the Brexit Party are in the last chance saloon. The Conservative Party are in the last chance saloon, really, over this. If they don't come through over this final free trade deal, then I will never, ever vote for him again. And I think there's a lot of people. I think we see the Conservative Party as the best way at the moment of progressing this issue.
Yeah, listen,
but,
I've always said.
Sorry,
Phil. I've always said that, without Nigel Farage, we would never have got to the point where we are currently at, where Brexit would have been even a possibility or a referendum would have been even a possibility. But it just seems to me that whenever they get anywhere near a proper general election, Nigel Farage's organisations kind of seem to fall apart.
Yeah, it's unusual circumstances this time, though, Mike. I mean, he was caught in the middle of a cleft stick, really, because if he went up against, it was obvious, if he went up against Tory candidates that in sort of sitting Tory seats, they would lose some of the marginal ones. So I think he was caught. The message I wanted to, and one of the things I wanted to say though was, and if any of this gets back to Nigel, I would say please, 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 Nigel, and he's intimated he won't. Please don't wind up the party after this election, because we really, really need to hold. And you might not have any seats, but trust me, you will come bouncing back if the Tories don't come through with this.